Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be teaching you how to make Agusi soup, and we're going to first start off by using our meats and getting our cow meats assorted. So we have cow leg, so we're going to go ahead and cook this for quite a while because we want it to get nice and tender. As you can see, it's very thick, so we have to soften this meat by cooking it for about an hour and a half. We're going to put it in our pot. As we have here, we have our pot, we have our measuring cup of 1 cup. So we're going to pour our water into the pot. And this can vary depending on the kind of meat that you have, how much meat you have. And for this particular tutorial, I used about 13 cups of water for that amount of cow leg that I'm using. And again, this cow leg needs to cook for about an hour. So we're going to let the water boil so it can soften by itself. The water is boiled here, and we are going to go ahead and add in our cow leg. So this one is going to cook ahead before all the other ones, just so that it can get nice and tender. And then we'll eventually add the other meats, as you'll see as we go on down. So let's go ahead and get started. As it's boiling, add the meat. We're also going to add stockfish. So the stockfish and the cow leg take a while to cook. So now we have our goat meat, and this goat meat is very nice. It's washed. We washed all of our meats that we're using today, and we cut it into small pieces. So we're going to use this. And normally Agusi soup doesn't require that much meat, but I'm just using it for the aesthetics of it. As you can see, the meat is nice and clean and washed. So like I was saying, Agusi soup doesn't require that much meat, but we're just doing it for the aesthetic. So we're also going to add cow stripe or towel, whatever you like to call it. And we're going to cook these two about, let's say, an hour and a half after we make the cow leg and the stockfish. We're going to add this into that same pot mixture to soften. As you can see, it's nice and clean. You want to make sure that all of your meats have been washed. I use a process where I rinse it 3 times with hot water just to clean the meat so it's nice and clean. We also have our chicken. You know, you can't have a dish without chicken, so we're going to cut this up into smaller pieces after we wash it and put it in the meat mixture. So we have a variety of chickens and meats. So then we're going to move on to our vegetables. This gives the Agusi the color and the taste. So we have the Scotch Bonnet peppers as well as the regular bell peppers. And we have 2 white onions and a red onion. Now the white onion we're going to use to fry the Agusi, and then the red onion we're going to blend it with the peppers to give it the color. We want to give it that nice orange color. So we're going to go ahead and use the onion that we're going to use to fry the Agusi and cut it up into small pieces. Nice small pieces so that it won't be visible when we fry the Agusi soup. So go ahead and cut this up, get a better angle. And you want to cut it as fine as you can, as small as you can. This is what we're going to use to fry the Agusi. It's going to give it a nice good taste, and the other onion is going to use in the blending process of the Agusi to give it the orange red color. So make sure that the onions is nicely chopped up. That's what we're going to use to fry it. It's nicely diced up. And then we're going to go ahead and use palm oil to fry our Agusi. So as you can see, the palm oil is very thick. With heat, it will melt. So we're going to put about 2 of those measurements of that spoon. It's not a tablespoon, it's a larger spoon. And you can see when it's liquefied, we're going to put the onions in and mix it with the palm oil. So this is what we're going to use to fry the agusi. And then we have our agusi here, which agusi is a seed, a melon seed from a fruit. Gives it its rich consistency. We're going to add about 3 cups of this into a blender and blend it with minimum water to keep it nice and thick. As you can see here, it's thick. We want it to be thick because it allows the agusi to dry faster. So try not to use a lot of water. You want to blend it with as little water as possible to get a nice thick consistency. And then we're going to get it and just get it all out from the blender and just mix it in with our palm oil and onions, and we're going to keep mixing it until it's fried. And you'll see eventually what I mean by fried. This is the key to making good agusi soup. Make sure this part doesn't burn. Make sure it doesn't overcook. Make sure that it's nice and fried. So you'll see the end results. And there we are. This is nicely fried agusi soup. Here we're going to go ahead and add seasoning to taste because you don't want to add the seasoning too early or else you won't get a good taste. This is the perfect time to add a seasoning. And you'll add the seasoning. We're going to go in with the Knorr pollo seasoning and spread that around. About 2 tablespoons of it suffice. So this will give the agusi a nice good taste. So we're going to keep mixing it, make sure it's dry, and then we'll put that off to the side. So before I put that off to the side, let me go ahead and show you how it looks, the finished product. Take it off the stove top. And there it is. So that's it, fully cooked, dry. As you can see, it's nice and grainy, and this is what gives the agusi soup the texture that people love so much, that nicely grained fried agusi soup. So now we're going to go ahead and cut our fish. This fish, you can use dry fish, you can use stockfish, not stockfish, dry fish. And we're going to cut it up and put it into our meat. This is an alternative to dry fish. The guy at the African store told me that this would be a good taste for agusi soup, so I went ahead and used it. I'll let you guys know how everything turned out, but we're going to cut it up into small pieces, just like that. We're also going to add in turkey, our turkey, smoked turkey. We're going to add that into our meat mix. And then we have fish here that we're going to add. We added with our blended peppers and onions. And this is our meat concoction with everything put in there together. It's cooked for a while. We're going to add the previous, what you just saw, the fish and the tomato seasoning, the tomatoes, crushed tomatoes into the pot. That's what we just added just now. And make sure everything's out from the blender. And we're going to mix it very well. This is also going to give the soup this overall taste, the sweet taste. So that was the onions and the pepper that we mixed, that we cut up. We blended that with the fish that I just showed you, and we put that into the pot to make the soup. So it's cooking with our meat. And then we also going to add crayfish. You want to wash your crayfish and blend it into the blender. So that's how it looks like before we washed it. And then we eventually washed it and blended it into the blender. That's our meat. We're going to pour the crayfish into there. And we're going to mix it all around to give it overall flavor. I forgot to mention to add Maggi to the meats. So we added Maggi in the previous part. I didn't show that. We added about 2 cubes of Maggi. Depending on the amount of meat you're making, you're going to add it to give it its taste. So this food does have seasoning. I just didn't show the seasoning part or the seasoning portion. But this is our meat. So once this part is done, you just add the agusi and you're all done. So we're going to keep stirring it to get that nice consistency to spread throughout the flavors. And then we're going to go ahead and go on to the next step. So now we're going to add the agusi, and you want to add it into the pot, all that you made. And you want to make sure that it's nice and flavorful. Make sure that the agusi tastes nice and the soup tastes nice separately. Therefore, when you combine it together, it will be a wonderful taste all together. So once we get the agusi out of the pot, we're going to mix it all together, and this is coming to the end of our agusi soup. It's almost done, and it looks so good. I wish you could see the top view of the pot. You'll see it eventually. But this is our agusi soup mixture. We just need to add our vegetables, which we will do in the next step. So right here we're going to add our spinach. We washed the spinach. We had a bag of frozen spinach and we washed it thoroughly. And then we put it into the soup to mix it and to give it that greenness, because you always want to add greens when you make a goosey soup, just to add a touch. And this is our end product. We have our agusi soup. It's nice and flavorful. It looks beautiful. And I'll show you just how we make agusi soup. This is Nigerian Egusi soup. That's how it looks like. Nice and flavorful, nice and hot, perfect, ready to eat. And this is your Nigerian Egusi soup. We have Nigerian, I'm Igbo, so this is how we make ours. It varies from different countries. You can serve it up into our bowl. I'm going to dish it out for a few people, so this is how I dish it out. And thank you for stopping by Nikki's Food and Drinks. I hope you place your order for agusi soup and have a good day.
Put more to which one?
I wanted to put more soup.